back. Just a reminder, you see the camera person out here. She's taking photos, she's doing videos. Any of you, and all of you in fact, will be appearing on this video. So what you need to do is to see Sharon and to sign a permission slip, because we don't want to put you out there on the air without your permission. We don't need any lawsuits or anything like that. Not that you would do that, but anyway, see Sharon, she'll give you a form, fill out, and that'll take care of that matter. At this time, we're going to be bringing on Anna Robinson. Anna, you represent One America movement. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm really interested in hearing about that. Okay, so come on up, dear.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Anna Robinson, and I am the program coordinator for One America West Virginia. Before I start talking about my job, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about myself. I grew up in the Eastern Panhandle. I graduated from Martinsburg High School in 2013, and then after that I went on to WVU, where I graduated with a degree in strategic communications and a minor in psychology in 2017. So maybe if you guys didn't know, yes, I am pretty young. I've been out of college for 2 years. When I graduated, it was always my goal to move out of the small town environment and go big. So I moved to New York City. And I worked there at a peer consulting firm for about a year. But when I was there was something that just wasn't right. There was something that didn't sit well with me. I wasn't doing work that I'd say was contributing to any greater good. I wasn't helping anybody in any way. And so I kind of decided I wanted to start a job search. So that's what I did. And I came across an organization called the One America Movement, which was beyond a blessing because it brought me back home. And it brought me back home to do work that was needed here. So, for background about the One America Movement, they are a national, or we are, I should say, we are a national nonprofit organization that works to fight toxic polarization by bringing people together across different religious, racial, political, geographic divides to address issues that matter in communities across the country. So we have a project here called One America West Virginia, which I am the program coordinator of. And our project is focused on bringing people together, building community to address the opioid epidemic here. So our mindset for starting this project was that the opioid epidemic and toxic polarization both exist and they exist and thrive because of disconnection in communities, isolation. So that's what I'm here to combat. So we combat that by first creating a coalition of churches in the area. And we want to just create this network, this web. If an addict were to come to a church seeking help, they wouldn't be met with shame and stigma. That's one of our biggest things. Also, we are working with Grace in the Blue Ridge Recovery Resource Center to get more people into the Recovery Coach program. There's a class starting in July. I actually have flyers if you're interested. Please come see me. If you guys are unfamiliar, recovery coaches are people who kind of walk with folks while they're on their journey to recovery. They are trained. Sometimes the class lasts a week. Sometimes the classes are on Saturdays. But they're usually 4 to 5 classes in a month that go from like 8:30 to 4:30. You get real college credit for it, but it will be worth your time, I promise. So if you're interested, please come see me. In addition to that, we have been working on building a volunteer database. And the volunteer database kind of serves as like, let's get the community up and moving to do something. So I'll give you guys an example of something that we've done. Debbie told me that the Oxford houses were in need of hygiene items. So she connected me with the Oxford houses. We got some information squared away, and we sent that information onto our volunteer database. And let me tell you, we kind of inundated them with items because we had congregations in Washington, D.C., congregations here, individuals putting together drives, getting people moving to get those items together, and we did it. And we're actually working on another drive for them now. Instead of hygiene items, they're in need of non-perishable food items. So if you're interested, please come see me if you'd like to be a part of that as well. And then the last thing that we're doing is holding events. And events and service projects like the one I just mentioned. But we do that because we want to build community. We want to get the community moving. So we do things like service projects. We have relationship building events where we bring people together to have a meal and conversation and discuss how we as a community can address this issue. We have service projects, and then we also have events where we bring people in from different congregations. And when I say different congregations, I'm not just talking Christian. We do have people, we have partners from Muslim congregations and also Jewish congregations as well, who come in and we do some sort of service project. And then afterwards, we'll come together, discuss the service project, and then have that meal and conversation. And this kind of gets people in contact with people who they maybe wouldn't have spoken to otherwise, which is a positive thing because we're all kind of in this fight together, despite what we look like, where we come from. So that's very, very important to us. So those are the 3 things that we're currently working on. And if you guys are interested or would like to get involved, please come see me. I have a sheet that you can sign to become part of our volunteer database. And with that, you're not going to be inundated with emails, I promise. But anytime the community has a need, I send it out. If you'd like to respond, that's great. If you don't, that's great too. And you can also come to our next event. That hasn't been scheduled yet, but we are working on it. I guess, does anyone have any questions? And thank you for having me. Yes.
Are you a nonprofit? So do you have public funds or private funds? Or do you run only on donations? How do you?
We run solely on donations.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And most of those donations come from religious congregations.
Cool.
And you said you haven't advertised the next event, but do you have an idea of what it's going to be and where or when?
We're working with Paloma to do something for them because they're in need of a lot of stuff. So we're hoping to have a big community event, but that won't be until months down the road. But we're kind of like in the beginning process of planning that.
And you say you're One America, Virginia, but are you pretty much just in this area? Or?
Yeah, pretty much just in this area. Hopefully we're able to expand, but right now it's just me, and it would be kind of difficult to be all over the state with just one person.
You can do it.
Yeah.
And there's a website, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I also have One America West Virginia information sheets if you're interested. Once again, just come see me. Yes.
Do you know of any other programs similar to this that is in Virginia?
Well, actually, we have One America Virginia. We have a program coordinator there. He's working to create projects around the state. And the way that this is why I talked about One America first. So the way that this works, we have 3 community leaders come together and they decide on an issue that the community is in need of. So if you're interested in starting a chapter, just come see me and I can connect you with my colleague. But you would just need 2 other community leaders, and then the 3 of you would decide on an issue that's plaguing your community. It could be opioids, it could be another issue, and then we would work on building a chapter from there. Okay, well, thank you guys so much for giving me the time to talk to you today.
Okay, thank you very much. That's quite a piece of information I think is important for us. Okay, at this point, we're going to be bringing up Debra Gray. Debra does pretrial diversion resources. And so we'll see what she can offer us in the way of information relative to the effort that we have ongoing.
Good afternoon. So I'm Debbie Gray. And I'll just give you a little bit of background about why I'm involved in addiction. When my son turned 18, my husband and I had just gotten a divorce 2 years prior to that, and there was some abandonment from the father. So I won't go into a lot of details, but he had some conflict with that within himself. Like other high school kids do, he experimented with his friends, and he started taking pain pills. And it may have stopped at that had he not had the underlying reasons, the underlying abandonment. So, about that time, I learned that he was addicted to drugs. At that point, he had progressed to heroin. And I remember clearly finding out, it was Christmas week when I found out that he was actually using. And I was working at Verizon, had a very good job, my life was going well, single mom, 2 daughters, who, by the way, his addiction affected because I put all of my attention onto my son because I had to save him, so I thought. So they were left to kind of fend for themselves, unfortunately. I did not know that. Ironically, my youngest daughter graduated from this church program, this academy. I'm very blessed that they both turned out very strong ladies, and they were very much able to get through it, unlike my son. So, but they still had their dad in their life. Short of that, basically, my point in telling you that is before my son became addicted, I knew nothing about addiction. In fact, I thought that they were just people that had a choice, that they just made bad choices, they did bad things, had no clue. It took me a long time to actually even learn. So we got him into treatment, he went to treatment, he came home, he was clean for almost 4 years. He was married, he had 2 children. He was doing well. I thought, he's cured, we're done, this is okay. And so I went about my life, but I had started having health issues because of the stress that it caused. Because addiction is a family disease, and it's often fueled by mental health. What I did not know personally is that I had post-traumatic stress disorder. I am a daughter of an alcoholic. My mother was depressed, so it cycles down, and if you don't know that, you don't know that. So his wife left him for another man when he had been doing well for almost 4 years, and he held it together for 2 months with his 2 children. And the day that the court awarded her temporary custody, he made the choice. He didn't want to live anymore. So he stopped I didn't even know he was on Suboxone at the time. He stopped it, and he started using heroin. And fortunately, I had educated myself enough, and I had started helping people just on my own to get help, and I started learning. And that probably the last year that he was doing very well. And he came to me within 3 months and said, I need help, I'm using again. So we got him back into treatment. It was a very difficult thing to do because there are no resources. It took a long time, it took weeks for me to find him a place to go. I watched him detox and I cried. I was helpless. So not only did it affect him, but it affected our entire family. My daughters, it affected them. It affected my health. I became very sick, had to go on disability, couldn't work anymore. So that said, he went back to treatment again, and he came back home and he realized he has to stay on his, I don't know if you know what MAT is. Some of you here will. It's medication-assisted treatment. So Suboxone has a blocker in it. And it does have a tiny bit of opiates, and it helps the brain because the brain is now, as I'm sure Dr. Harden's talked about, is now damaged, and it takes a very long time for that to come back to a some kind of normalcy. So that's what he does, and he goes and he sees his psychologist, and he gets treatment. So that's why I'm here. Otherwise, I would have never known why it existed. So that said, I began helping everybody. I started researching treatment programs, everything I could about addiction so that I could understand the brain. I was fortunate enough to meet some very wonderful people in this room, even that I work with today, Stephanie, and I probably work with you and don't even know it because I work with the inmates. But some counselors at Paloma, and then I ended up being offered a job at a company that provided resources for everybody nationwide. So I had that job for about 2 or 3 years, and I learned a lot from a lot of different people, and I just absorbed it. So